A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Coach Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Saturday, June the 29th. Here's what the guest menu looks like. Of course, it's Charles Edmond, Coach Vann Pettaway, Willa Brown, and we will talk with Richard Morgan Williams. Now, what's trending on June the 29th? The Southern University and JSU football game has a time change. People are giving me too much credit, like I had something to do with it. Somebody has a lot of pull. Also, SWAC spring meeting recap. We'll get into that in segment number 2. Segment number 1, Southern Jackson State football game. Time has changed. 6 p.m. Good God Almighty. The Creator is good. NBA news and notes. We'll get into some of that. And for people in the chat room and the audience, your expectations for your 2024 SWAC football team. Now, we're talking about expectations. Reality will be played out on the field. But kind of get a pulse of what your expectations of your SWAC football team, your institution. That's what's trending on the Coach Brown Show. Now we'll bring in the panel, and always excited to see them. Willa Brown via Baltimore, Coach Vann Pettaway somewhere, and Charles Edmond somewhere. Good morning and good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, let's just get this right out. Let's get right into it. The Southern and Jackson State football game has a time change to 6 p.m. I've been getting text messages about, wow, you got a lot of pull. Who? Me? Not me. We all voiced our opinion on a 1 p.m. game in Jackson, Mississippi in the middle of September. My goodness. Who do you think is going to be able to just be out there and enjoy the atmosphere? I also talked about the audience, the fan base. We have an older fan base. We got to look out for them. Also, you have members of the fan base that have chronic illness that they have to deal with. So we got to look out for them. A wise and smart decision by those with influence to change this game. And then the atmosphere now is going to be electric. Now, it's still going to be hot. Still use precaution when you're tailgating. Alcohol beverages at a minimum. I can't believe I just said that. But, just be careful. But with that being said, Charles, Willer, and Coach Pettaway, I think it gives it the best chance to have, I think, now will be an even more electric crowd. 6 p.m. is where that game should be. And, the only other thing I wish is going forward, can we get that game back in October where actually, from a historical standpoint, you've had some outstanding matchups in October when it's crisp, cool, the temperature's about in the upper 60s. Oh, my. Southern and Jackson State fan base, you can't ask for more. You can't ask for more. Okay, enough of that. I got that out. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hey, Carlos, I guarantee you finances had a lot to do with that game change, the time change, rather. Because you conceivably draw more people for a 6 o'clock game than you would for people come sitting out there in that 1 o'clock heat.
Thus, it makes
Carlos,
sense, right?
ESPN game. ESPN game, right?
Yeah.
And
Plus,
ESPN knows that you're going to get more eyes in the evening than you are in the afternoon. They know that, especially in terms of a big rivalry like that. So I wouldn't want us to think that they give a damn about people falling out in the heat and all that sort of thing and stuff. For them, it's about eyes in front of the TV set. And they probably figured that a matchup like Southern and Jackson State, primetime matchup, needs to be put as close to primetime as possible so they can get more eyeballs on a TV set. Yeah. But, I mean, we'll take it. We'll take it now. I mean, no doubt about that. But we're not going to complain about that. But if we think that the folk at ESPN all of a sudden had a coming to Jesus moment and, decided to look out for the masses in terms of the heat, that sort of thing. We're just kind of kidding ourselves a little bit.
Well, not too bright. If you have both scenarios in front of you, 1 p.m., 6 p.m. Then you do your homework, 6 p.m. time slot is better than 1 p.m.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I got to be careful. I don't want to, go hard on ESPN, but those who influence, if you do your homework, 6 p.m. is a whole hell of a lot better than 1 p.m. Anybody disagree with that?
No
disagreement here. I think Carlos, is the combination of ESPN, the fan base, and the athletic directors all coming together, putting their minds on it, and saying, "Hey, and you're not going to. I mean, there are going to be some 1 o'clock games and some afternoon games all over the country, but I think you're going to see a little less of it because of the fact of what we're dealing with." And Carlos, we're in this political season. I'm gonna throw your name out there for some political office because you got it done, buddy. You got this one done. You were the first one to gripe and moan and complain about it, rightfully so. And hey, change happened, and I have to give you thumbs up on that because you're exactly right for all the reasons that you talked about. And I also agree with the fact that in a perfect world, Southern and Jackson to me is designed for a mid-season game, somewhere October 18th, 19th, kind of a pivot game, in the division. But it's not what we're dealing with. It is an early game. It is an early matchup, and for it to be at 1 o'clock, even I look at my alma mater. Grambling in September used to play some games at home, and some fans fell out. And I think Grambling, since it's been probably about 15 years now, I think Grambling, for the most part, in September, play their games at night, that early in the season. So I would say that it was a great move, a smart move, an obvious move. You're not going to have those folks out there sitting in the heat. It's just not going to. And even for us, we got a decision to make. We got a September home game. Our first home game against Edward Waters right now is TBA. But my guess is that my assumption is that that's going to be a 6 o'clock game. Especially it's our first home game of the year, coming off 2 big road games. I think it'll be 6 o'clock. It's just TBA right now. But I think it's a smart move by the conference, by the officials at Southern, as well as Jackson at ESPN.
Hey, but Charles, that would make Carlos. That's the second person this week to flex, man, and get stuff done. You see what I'm saying?
see this, sir. Anything is possible.
Yeah, anything's possible. You are correct about that.
And I could stand up and show you the back, but this is a shirt that we wear in the East Baton Rouge Parish school system. And so, hey, I said, you know what? Let me wear this. Anything is possible. But, we can look at it also. I know sometimes you have to make adjustments, but in September, can we honestly say the best scenario is to have games as late as possible, across the board. And if Alcorn is smart, they're gonna move that game. The time change, and let me say it that way.
Yeah.
But, and then there's also, if you look at the back of Southern schedule, they also have some 4 p.m. games later on in the season, as it gets cooler. And so I understand you got to be flexible, but just this Southern Jackson State football game, and I was kind of gauging social media. Some of the Jackson State fans and alums, they agree when it first came out. Wow, 1 p.m. Oh my goodness! So I mean, the players they're going to train in fall camp in high temperatures and humidity, so they're accustomed to it. But again, some of our fans, and I remember Jackson and Grambling a couple of years ago, man, they had people falling out. Yeah. And the only thing I can find close to this, the SWAC MEAC challenge, when Southern and South Carolina State played on a Sunday. and it was kind of concerns. But for me, I could easily say, well, toughen up, everybody. But my behind was in the press box. I wasn't in the stands, and it was a blessing that day because it was only about 90 degrees at kickoff, and the heat index was only about 102. Like today, the heat index is going to be triple digits.
Yeah.
So, Willa, 97, 98 with 55% humidity, you get triple in there. And I'm telling you, I've been to different places in the South. The humidity here is the sticking point. It gets hot everywhere. I'm sure it's hot in Huntsville.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it's hot in St. Louis. But, boy, that humidity. But the time change. I love it. So now let the games begin. SWAC spring meeting. A couple of weeks ago, Charles, you talked about the women's and men's schedule, the separate schedule. It's now official. It was voted on. Also, last week, Coach Pettaway, I'm interested to get your take. We had a lively discussion about the SWAC basketball tournament expanding. Now it is official. It's going to 10 teams next year. And lo and behold, what I highlighted in 2026, men's and women's basketball tournament will feature all 12 teams. So the process has been established. Can we say now it's going to be the rule, the law? Now, my only sticking point with this is if you're going to 12 teams, if you're going to 10 teams, everybody's in. I want the regular season champ. And Willa disagree with me last week when I said the runner-up and the champ being rewarded for standing the test of time and winning the regular season. Does it devalue the regular season, Coach Pettaway? And if it doesn't, then do you believe that there should be a reward for winning the regular season?
Right. Okay, if they got enough teams and they have to give a bye, yeah, you give that bye to your regular season champion. But I don't think it devalues the regular season. Your regular season, that's a championship in itself. And then you get a tournament championship. So these guys are professionals. They want to win both. So they're going after both of them. When I say guys, I'm talking about ladies and men. They're going after both championships. It doesn't devalue. And then I think for the student athlete experience, I think that's why they're going to all allowing 10 teams this year and 12 the following year. They want to give the kids who have been through the grind the entire year, they want to let them feel like they're a part of something. And I think that had a lot to go into the decision making at the SWAC office, because right now it should be all about the kids. And so I'm happy for that. I've never been I've always felt like all teams should have an opportunity in your conference, because if you don't win that tournament, your season's over with anyway. Well, so that's a good thing.
Mr. Carey says so you can go 1-15 in the regular season, get an invite to the conference tournament, and if you win it because it's a one bid league, yes, sir, you will represent the conference. Now, and I like the discussion. We don't have to agree all the time. We can agree to disagree. I like it. And valid point about the student athlete's experience. I understand that. I get that. But I kind of like it the way it is. 8 teams. But okay, that's not going to happen. Then you got 10 teams. 2 teams on both the women and men's side are not going to make it. And then in 2026, all 12 teams will be in the conference tournament.
And see, Carlos, you still have yeah, even with 12 teams, there's still incentive. You want to improve your seeding. You want to get a good seeding so that you have a better opportunity to attempt to win the tournament. So there's a lot for the athletes and the coaches to play for.
Charles?
I think that I mean the conference is always, and the commissioners talked about this, where they have I think they have a student athlete advisory board or something like that, where they do chime in with the student athletes in terms of their thinking about this conference and other things. And I think attitude has changed over the last 5-6 years. I think the fact that, and I know from a record standpoint it doesn't look good, but in these championships you've seen lower seeded teams make deep runs in the tournament. Case in point, the number 7 seed Alabama A&M in basketball this past season, they were on the outside looking in. They beat Southern, then they beat Alcorn, one of the biggest upsets we've seen. So I think you can point to these lower seeded teams getting it done and making deep runs, and I think that helps sell that argument. And so that's on one side of it. But I think the challenge, Coach Pettaway, to me, and I was thinking about this, if you are a team that's, let's say in 2 years and you're 4-14, you're 4-14 in the conference. You're going to be in the tournament. You know, the SWAC basketball tournament is around spring break for some of us. You're 4-14. As a coach, you try. How can you motivate your kids? You're 4-14. You've had a bad season for whatever reason, and then you got to try to get it up, make this trip to Atlanta or wherever the tournament's going to be, Birmingham, wherever the tournament's going to be. You got to get to the tournament, trying to elevate your team, trying to motivate your team. That's the one thing that I thought about recently. Like, you're 4-14, how are you going to do that? We've seen upsets, and it can happen. Anything can happen. But that's my big concern. How are you going to get these lower seeded teams up? And we've seen upsets, but how do you do that?
That's part of coaching. That's part of the responsibility. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Wheeler.
Oh, I understand where everybody's coming from. You know, the student athlete experience thing. I mean, let's work harder to get better and, you know, improve ourselves through normal means. You know, if that's the case. I mean, I could see the conference bending one way in terms of adding the 2 more teams. You know, to me, that showed that, you know, we're listening to the student athletes, that sort of thing. But, you know, all 12 teams, I mean, I just can't see it. I think we are rewarding mediocrity. You know, and I mean, that's just like giving a participation trophy or what have you. To me, I mean, I want the kids in there fighting. You know, there's only 10 slots and there's 12 teams. You know, you got to bring it every night. And you know, down the stretch, you got to suck it up and go extra hard if you're going to be in that final 10. Yeah, but I mean, if it's 12 that's going, hey, what difference? What difference does it make? I mean, if I'm the 11th seed and I can fight and get the 10th spot, yeah, I'm going to fight a little harder if there are only 10 slots than there is if all 12 teams are going. I might not fight as hard. And as Charles said, you know, the majority of the schools, it's their spring break time. You know, and believe it or not, them kids want to go on spring break. Don't let nobody fool you in terms of, you know, I mean, they want to play basketball, but, you know, at the end of the day, Carlos, Miami is calling them, and, you know, they want to get down there on the boardwalk and all that sort of thing. And, you know, so, I mean, if it comes to being the 12th seed, or going down to Miami and hollering at the pretty girls, that sort of thing. 18 to 22-year-old kids are going to take the latter as opposed to the former.
Well, it seems in the chat room, and again, I love it. This is a conversation we're having. AD Drew just said it's the student athlete experience. Coach Pettaway. So it seems like, of course, we got 4 people here. Coach Pettaway, I think I'm in favor of keeping it as is, but that's not going to happen. I'm not for 12 teams, and I'm not for 10. So that's my position. But it's not going to happen that way. So I am going to be on board with what the conference has put in place. But I just wanted to state I'm not for it. Charles, it seems like you're for it.
Yeah, I am for it. I am for it. I do think, and I do listen, and I'm around student athletes.
Yeah.
I think that, going to the tournament and having that experience now with the ESPN Plus games and all that is a little bit. It takes a little bit more meaning now. I mean, back in the day, we had the SWAC Digital Network doing these games, and maybe not as much attention, but all these games are on the ESPN family of networks. It's on Plus. And I think the way the conference builds the tournament now, the trophies look nice and all of that. And I think that's where student athletes are now. Now, a decade ago, I think it was, when it was 8 teams or whatever it was, I think that was fine. But I also, Carlos, I'm going to say that when it was 8 teams, it was exciting throughout at the bottom of the bracket, teams fighting to get in, like Alabama A&M last year. There was conversation about teams fighting to get in when it was an 8-team tournament. And it was a fight to get a home game when we had the format of the top 4 at home. We're playing home. How many years ago since we had that format? So I agree with you that, yes, when it was 8 teams, there was a fight at the bottom. But now you're going to have 10, and now you're going to have 12, and now everybody's in. And so now you just got to strap it up and get ready, because like we saw this past season, one of the hottest teams in the conference got knocked out by a team that was on the outside looking in with 2 days left in the regular season. Is that an anomaly? Probably, but I think you're going to see everybody's got to be ready to go for the tournament with everybody in. I just hope that we get good attendance with all these teams in, because that's going to be the next piece. Because right now the conference hasn't announced whether. Right now the tournament's still in Birmingham. I'm hearing Atlanta's very much in play. No decision's been made yet, but I'm hearing Atlanta's getting a lot of momentum right now, and that's been talked about the last few weeks. So I think if you got all 12 teams in Atlanta, I'm looking at good basketball, and hopefully we can get good attendance if it does lean that way.
Right. And, prior to FAMU and Bethune coming, when we only had 10 teams in the SWAC, all teams went to the tournament. It was here lately where they went to the 8-man format. The 18 format. All the teams went to the tournament when we first got into the SWAC. So everybody that was eligible, you went to the tournament. So I just think, and the SWAC is not the only conference that's doing that now. There are other conferences that invite everybody. Everybody gets an opportunity to participate. And then you still got some conferences that do it like we were doing it. They have they cut it down. They cut down the number of teams that are eligible.
Yeah, but some of the other teams don't have a one bid league, and that's
that's true now.
Yeah. With us, and to me, and I can't make a mathematical equation for this. The team that has proven from the beginning to end, and we don't even want to talk about the non-conference scheduled money games, because they definitely have to, as Charles say, have to win the conference. They will have the best opportunity to get a win in the play-in game or what have you, because they have stood the test of time from the beginning to the end. They've been the most consistent. And it's an opportunity that they could get upset. But don't you want to send your best representative to the next level? And I think that the best way to do that is during the regular season. And Charles knows this. And again, I know I'm in the minority on this. The tournament is good for the student experience, but I would rather just send the regular season champion, But now, if it wasn't just a one bid league, I would be more so open to have that tournament. But saying all this, I just wanted to get that out there.
I guess what I'm saying is, student athletes, I hear you cry. We're going from 8 to 10. That's my compromise. Okay, so we were at 8. I hear you about the student athlete experience, that sort of thing. Let's bump it to 10. Yeah, but the bottom line being, Carlos, somebody got to pay in terms of, these These student athletes staying in the hotels and buses and meals, all that sort of thing. That's coming out of the athletic budget. And a lot of times these hotels got minimums in terms of the number of days you have to stay. So, you might have to stay in Atlanta until Wednesday or Thursday, okay? But you might lose on Monday. But you still paying for hotel rooms through Wednesday or Thursday.
But Wheeler,
which means you still paying for meals and you still paying for the bus and all that sort of thing. So I mean, you got to look at it at some point in time. I mean, you can budget for it, sure, that sort of thing, and try to make do. I don't know. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer, but I'm just looking at it totally, in terms of deserving, and in terms of the budget. Let's see what happens.
Right.
I think the reason why they cut back, I think it was budgetary in nature.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, it had to do with budgets.
Right.
So it didn't have to do with anything else, but budgets.
Well, guys, let's do this. Hold that point. We're overdue for a timeout. In the chat room, AD Drew brings up a good point. Will the conference use a single buy or double buy system? I brought up the buy system, and again, my preface is saying this: regular season champion, and I even said the runner up. Unless it's just a big gap, no, I'm gonna stick to it. I think the regular season champion, the run up, should get a bye. When you go to 10 teams and then with 12 teams, I guess you still have to do it as well. But we'll come back, pick up that point. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Gulf Coast Challenge, Mobile, Alabama, and marching maroon and white at its best.
Hey, I know that would have made you happy there. Welcome back.
Like that.
I mean, we're going to integrate all of the bands in, you know, and I don't want to get into a band contest, but we all know. To me, there's a top 2, there's a top 3. But welcome back to the Coach Brown Show. But Pettaway, you were making a point, and then I just kind of want to pull in into the chat room. Very interesting comments going on as far as the topic we're talking about. But
right. Well, I wanted to piggyback off what Wheeler was saying about the hotel situation. Wheeler, if we are looking at proposals from different cities, that would be part of my package. When my team loses, they don't have to stay that extra time. If you want the tournament, these are the things that your hotel and booking people have to do. So I know what you're talking about. See, that's just like at the Final Four. I have to pay for 5 days, whether I stay 1 or 2. I still have to pay for 5 days. But for team travel, you can negotiate that if they want to host. If Atlanta wants to host, that needs to be part of the package so that the schools do not have to pick up those extra days. That's what I wanted to say about that. And then, Carlos, when you get finished, you know, this past week, the NCAA made a lot of changes for men's college basketball. And so whenever you're ready for it, I'm ready for that, okay?
Okay. I know one about cannabis and the drug testing.
Right. They took that out. And then, but look, things that are going to affect us, off-campus recruiting. Now, get this now. Now, they allow all 6 men and women's basketball coaches to recruit off campus. How many of the HBCUs have 6 coaches? Okay. Now, okay. The other thing, official visits. They approve now that there is no restriction on the number of official visits. It was 28. For COVID, they moved it up to 35. Now you don't have anything. So you bring in as many people as possible. Then they changed the notification of the transfer window. Now, 30 days in all sports. You got 30 days for that kid to decide whether or not they're going to transfer. And that helps your team putting together a roster. Okay, then the other one was the off-campus inter-squad games. They approved it now to permit up to 2 inter-squad games at an off-campus location other than your own. So now you can do 2 of them, whereas before they only allowed you 1. And then the foreign tours, now a student athlete in the past, a student athlete could only participate in 1 foreign tour during their 4 years. They have thrown that away. Now, the thing that I think that hurt us, that they not passed, that they tabled, was the exhibition games and practice scrimmages. You know, right now, if you do that, it's supposed to be closed. You can't announce, you can't keep score and all that kind of stuff. The NABC wanted that to be changed, but they tabled that along with multi-team events where 2 schools from the same conference could participate in that. They in the same multi-event, that was tabled also. And then the biggie the other day where they said they're going to take cannabis out as one of the illegal drugs in the drug testing thing. And those are big changes, I think, that will affect a lot of schools, perhaps some of the SWAC schools who have those extra coaches. Now they can all go out and have an opportunity to recruit.
Haves and have-nots.
Yep.
It still turns that way. Even within our conference, some have those coaches. And some of that you were specifically talking about basketball, right?
Correct.
Okay. I don't know. Tough situation. Very tough.
But we all knew, Carlos, that this was coming, though. I mean, 2-3 years ago, the people that follow these things for a living kind of warned us through social media and other means that changes were coming, changes were looming, and now you're seeing it. You know, is it at this extent? Probably not, but changes were coming. And to favor the haves and the have-nots will stay where they are, but the haves are going to get more. And so, you know, I'm surprised, Coach Pettaway, about when you play these games in the closed door situations. We've done it, you know, playing junior colleges and other things. We've you know, we don't announce those things. It's a closed door contest. But now, I mean, I'm surprised they even addressed that. I mean, you're just trying to get your team better. You're trying to see where you are in late October when you play these games right before the season starts. I would think that the committee wouldn't even deal with that because you're just trying to get your team ready to go come mid-November. I'm surprised about that aspect of it.
Right. Yep.
Well, you shouldn't be, because these committees are still going to favor the what? Went from Power 5, Power 4.5. Last week, somebody else called it Power 3.5.
Yeah.
They favor those institutions. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, but Carlo, here's the problem, man, and because I experienced this, you don't have a voice because a lot of our coaches won't. They outside of coaching their own team, a lot of our coaches do not do anything else. I served on committees from my 3rd year as a head coach. I was involved in some other type of committee. I sat on those committees to speak on behalf of the SWAC, the MEAC, the smaller schools. That was my job, and that's what I wanted to do. I'm the one that went after them about practice. This is what I told them. I said, wait a minute. I said, the major schools are getting the McDonald's All-Americans. At my school, we don't get those type kids. We need more time to work with our kids. Carlos, you got to remember now, when I stopped coaching, you couldn't do anything with your kids in the summer. You couldn't do anything with your – when I left coaching, they had just started allowing us to work with them after the season. Now, not only do you work with them after the season, you got them all summer, you got them all preseason. We didn't have that. And my point was, our kids that we recruit need more work than those McDonald's All-Americans. And that's not, I don't want that to come across as me bashing the kids. That's not what I'm saying. We know the product we're getting, we got to invest more into those kids to get them where they need to be in order for us to be successful. And under those current rules, you couldn't do that. You couldn't help those kids because of these doggone rules that they had. And now that they have adjusted them, that's why you're seeing a better quality of basketball. That's why you're seeing more upsets, because now these coaches have opportunity to work with these kids and get them better so that when they do go against some of these Power Fives, that they have a better chance. And I think that was long overdue, Charles, long overdue. But we got to get more involvement from our coaches in the SWAC, in the MEAC, and in conferences that are not part of the higher echelon. You got to have a voice in there.
Yeah, well, good point, Coach Pettaway. Yeah, it still favors, the Power Fives. I'm going to go in Power 4, 3.5. I'm going to chat room. Let's see. It got some interesting conversation going on. Real Perry says you have to have a buy system or it won't make sense at all. So
yeah, you gotta have a buy.
Going back to it, yeah. Now, with that being said, do you think they will go with just a regular season champion having a buy? And what I said about the run up, and Willa, don't bash me again. The second place team probably won't get a bye, but at least the regular season champion will get a bye. Or do you see, Coach Pettaway, would it hurt to have the run up getting a bye?
I think you're going to see a double bye. I honestly think you're going to end up seeing a double bye because of the number of teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Charles, I said that last week, and I appreciate Willis said. Willis said I disagree with that.
Right. Yeah, but it's just our opinion. I personally think in order for them to get this tournament to because of the number of days involved, you got to have a bye in there somewhere.
Yeah. From what I was told, Carlos, that the bracket is already. This person has seen the bracket already for next year, especially with the 10 teams. But they didn't. I got a text in to see if that's the case, because we've talked about this last couple of weeks that there should be. I agree with you, and I agree with Coach Pettaway on it that there should be. But
I know what is coming. I know
but it's nothing is. I'm tapping my source right now, so we can probably have this conversation if you text me back about it to see if there should be though. I mean, based on the number of teams, there should be a bye, the regular season champs, but nothing official, and we'll see. I think my source has seen the bracket and see will there be a bye involved, but there should be though. I think there's no question about that, and I see some of the posts as well, Carlos, on some of this stuff in terms of where if it's going to be in Atlanta. Right now, nothing's official. I'm hearing Atlanta, Birmingham. This tournament's bounced around, Coach Pettaway. As you know, we've been as far west as Houston and as far east as Atlanta, and every place in between. Gulfport, and it's been in my first SWAC tournament in the 80s was in Jackson, Mississippi. And so, the one place we've skipped, Carlos, right down the street from where you are, New Orleans. And we've had the baseball tournament there. We've had the SWAC Spring Sports Festival there back in the day. We just can't, I think New Orleans would be a great midway point. I have heard, though, that due to travel costs and hotel costs, New Orleans is kind of a detriment because of the cost of, going there and all of that. And so that's kind of an issue that's been in the past. Maybe still the case now. I don't know. But since we're not playing championships there. But now we're going to see the cost of doing business in Atlanta. For people who know, people like A.D. Drew goes to Atlanta a lot, Brian Fulford, they can talk about it, how expensive it is. Yeah. And you're right, for our teams to go to Atlanta and stay in these hotels, and even with bus travel. Now, my guess is that Texas Southern and Prairie View going to fly. They're not going to take a 15-hour bus ride to Atlanta. That's not, and Atlanta being accessible. Even from Jackson, you can fly to Atlanta, Little Rock, whatever. The cost of going to Atlanta for however many days, that's going to be talked about, I'm sure. And so I think that's something that, may be discussed down the road. If the tournament's going to be moved to Atlanta, nothing official. But if that's going to be the case, then I think that will be something that's on the plate.
Right. And now, Charles, since they don't have the location, but have they put out the dates for the SWAC tournament?
No, they have not. Now, the location, from what I was told, Coach Pettaway, and we talked about it last week, if it's going to be in Atlanta, it's going to be where the Atlanta Dream play.
Right, I heard that.
Yeah, and so that, you talk about venues, and so that's a smaller venue.
Which I like because, you look at it, and no disrespect, but when you saw, like, in Houston, playing in the NBA arena, the ambience was just not to my liking.
And that was because of student athlete experience. Again, they wanted, back in that time when the tournament was at the Toyota Center, there was student athletes wanted the experience of playing in an NBA arena. So the tournament was in Houston, and so that's the reason why I was at Toyota.
Right.
How did that go?
I get it. I get it. I get that part of it. It didn't, but just why it was in that bigger venue.
And I understand the student experience. Just like for those of you who are parents, you want better for your kids, right? But sometimes you have to say no. Sometimes you have to say no, and it doesn't mean that you don't love them.
Yeah.
But you say yes all the time. No, you got to say no sometimes.
And Carlos, the one thing that I hope that the SWAC does not ever go back to, I do not want to see our championship game on Sunday. You do not need to be playing our championship game on a Sunday, because 99% of the time you're going to get that play-in game, which is on Tuesday. There's not enough prep. There's not enough rest. There's not enough prep. My team was the last team to win a championship on a Sunday. And trust me, we didn't have time to do anything basketball related.
Yeah. Wow, a very interesting. That's an interesting point, and also interesting in the chat room. Jamar said something that I didn't think about. Let the bottom teams have to play in. I never thought about that. I wrote that down because once again, I want to reward the teams that have done well and been consistent throughout the season. Never thought about that one. Good, interesting, Jamar. Interesting. Let the bottom teams have to play in.
Yeah.
Also, they're talking about in the chat room about the UNO arena is cheap. For New Orleans, I just don't think it'll be in New Orleans anymore. AD Drew says if they play the tournament at the D League arena, bus travel will not be needed for teams that fly, since the venue is accessible by the airport shuttle. I saw that, but still, there is going to be a cost.
And the only thing with
the
that is the airport shuttle is not at your convenience. And that's the thing. If you want to go eat somewhere or something like that, then you're going to have to pay for the privilege for the airport shuttle. Or that airport shuttle a lot of times is making runs back and forth to the airport from the hotel, that sort of thing. And so it's going to be difficult for you to coordinate any kind of transportation needs, and you come out better with your own transportation. So if you're going to make the move in terms of going to these venues and all 12 teams and all that sort of thing, go on and jump in with both feet. Don't stick your toe in the water and see how cold it is. You already know it's cold. So go on and jump in and get wet, and let's go on and do what we want to do. If we say that we're doing this for the student athlete experience, then give them the experience. And be on with it.
Carlos, you have some teams, some schools that have their own buses. So the question, like Wheeler Brown, that's something I was thinking about. So for example, Texas Southern, they're going to probably fly to Atlanta. Are they going to take their own bus from Houston to Atlanta just to have that signage? Jackson's fairly close. I mean, so I think that's in it a question too, in terms of transportation costs. Chartering a bus is very expensive. And so no matter 1 day, 3 days, 4 days, however long, the cost associated with chartering a bus compared to your own bus is like night and day. I've heard the conversations about it even here. We charter buses, and so the expenses involved with that. So I think from a cost perspective, it is something that I don't know if coaches are going to think about it. I don't know if administration is going to look at it. If it's going to be in Atlanta, if it's going to be approved to be in Atlanta, then I think everybody knows and understands the cost that's associated with it. And especially if you're busing it, this is another thing too. I mean, this is kind of on the fringes, but when you're chartering a bus and you have a long bus ride, you just coming back right after the game with one driver is not feasible. Bus drivers have a certain amount of hours on the road. Right. So now you got to leave the next day. Like, for example, for football, for us, we play in Nashville, Vanderbilt, week 2. We're staying 2 nights. Why? Because bus drivers are out of hours by the time we play the game. So now you're staying 2 nights in a hotel. And yes, you could probably work it out to stay 1, but then you got to have other drivers. You're paying for all this stuff. So you look at the costs associated with those type of things. So when you're in Atlanta and you're doing these things, there's cost involved, more cost than probably what you're thinking about. So these are some of the, again, none of this is official because the conference hasn't come out with anything on where the tournament's going to be in 2024, but 2025, whatever it is. But I think right now, if it does lean towards Atlanta, and Coach Pettaway mentioned it, I've heard it, if it's that way, then there's going to be a lot of costs and a lot of moving pieces associated with this. And we'll see how that works from a travel and transportation perspective, because all of that is factored in.
Oh, wait a minute,
I remember a while ago, Charles, we came down, I was at A&T, and we came down to play Alcorn. And we had our team flying to Jackson, okay, but we had our buses to drive down. And after the game, we hopped on those buses and we headed back to Greensboro, and they changed drivers somewhere in South Carolina, that sort of thing, and had them waiting, and hop on, hop off, and let's go on and get on back, and I've done the same thing, going to FAMU from A&T down to FAMU, flew down and had the buses meet us down there, turn around right after the game, hop on the buses, and let's head on back. So you got to try to find creative ways to, make that budget scratch and sniff, and try to get it done the best way you can.
Right.
Well, wait a minute. I was going to be facetious. If you're playing Alcorn, you're playing Vanderbilt, that contract should be so nice to play it that you shouldn't have to stay 2 days. Fly in, fly out, because you're getting $700,000, right? No,
I don't know what the guarantee is for that one. I don't know what the guarantee is for that. We're not flying. The team is busing it to Nashville. I can tell you that.
Wow.
So, but I'm gonna say this.
It's not the point of the ride, really.
I'm gonna say this as far as transportation, what Wheeler talked about. Now, I've talked to bus drivers, even some that we used to employ here. The rules are a little bit different when you have your own buses as compared to bus charter companies. When you have your own buses, you can pretty much do what Wheeler talked about. But when you're chartering a bus company, there are rules for being on the road for so many hours, and you're on the clock when that bus is sitting there playing a football game. So, like for Houston, we're staying 2 nights. For Houston, when we go and play Prairie View, we're staying 2 nights. Vanderbilt, we're staying 2 nights. That's an 8-hour ride, and you're talking about a game. You're talking about taking them there. You're talking about turning around and going back. Drivers are out of hours. You can't do that. So that's against the law. So when you have your own buses, you can do whatever. And I think that's what Wheeler Brown was saying. The rules are a little bit different, though, when you're going with bus charter companies. There's a certain amount of time that they can drive, and you're paying for the extra driver if you decide to have extra drivers. You're paying for that. You're paying for their hotel as you go halfway. You're paying for all that stuff. That stuff's just not included. So there's a cost factor involved in it, too. I mean, I'm deep in the weeds on it, but those are just some of the things that we look at because I'm in some of those conversations and just hearing it in the periphery. But these are some of the things that you have to deal with. And look, Southern's got their own buses. So Southern can have drivers in position. Southern can have 2 drivers on the bus. One could sleep on the bus. I mean, they're probably not doing that, but I'm just saying the rules are different when you have your own transportation. But when you're going with a charter, it's a little bit different.
Right. Now, we charter. That's just like when we played in Texas. My teams flew to Texas, and we would have our local bus company to meet us at the airport. They would pick us up at the airport. All right. Now, when Coach Warmley got in there, she wanted to drive. She did not want to. She flew her first year, and the tickets got messed up, so she wouldn't do that anymore. So they were deadhead. One of the drivers would be halfway, and they changed drivers, and they'd bus on into Houston. But on those long trips, yeah, you go ahead and fly, and it was cheaper for us to have our local company that we always use to deadhead and pick us up at the airport. And you had your local transportation in Houston, the driver and everybody else. We already familiar with them, and that's how you have to do it. And that's how you pinch pennies, because it would have cost us more to lease buses in Houston than for our guys to go out there and deliver for us. So that's the way we did it at A&M now. Playing them basketball. Yeah.
It's
but it's expensive either way you go.
hopefully all those involved when making these decisions, all this will be discussed and taking account of what they need to do, whether it's going to be in Atlanta. They'll make an official, the SWAC conference, they'll make an official announcement pretty soon, I'm sure. Also, in some of the items in the spring meeting, in the sport of football, the conference office will provide cutting-edge technology via sideline tablets, beginning with the upcoming 2024 seasons. Teams will have the option of using tablets to view in-game video. Tablets can be distributed on the sideline, locker room, and coach's booth to study the game broadcast as feed, as well as camera angles from a team sideline and end zone. The tablet can be viewed by all team personnel, but cannot connect to other devices, project larger images, or provide data and analytics. So that was the other news to come out. And I guess the conference is going to provide that during the broadcast. Guys, it's been interesting in hour number one. We've talked about now officially the SWAC basketball tournament is expanding. I wonder now, will baseball expand as far as teams? Because if you're talking about the student experience, if you're going from 8 in baseball, do we look for 10 in baseball? And do we look for all 12 in baseball? Do we do it in volleyball? In softball? So are we looking at, and I'm just asking, are we looking at expansions in all of the sports going forward? Except
I
football.
would say, yeah. Well, I'm gonna say this in terms of football. Now, you know that, and you talk about the SEC, and I know you don't like to talk about the big boys per se.
But that's comparing apples and oranges. That's all I'm saying.
Hear me out on this. The SEC is doing away with divisions starting this year. There's no East, West, North, South. The top two teams in the SEC will be playing for the championship. All I'm saying is that who's to say 4 or 5 years from now, maybe not in the short term, but in the long term, that in the SWAC, you do away with East and West, and the top two teams in the conference play for the championship. Who's to say? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you see how these things trickle down the line. I can tell you in baseball, one thing that they are doing away with East and West as far as baseball is concerned. Everybody's going to play, not everybody, especially when it comes to the Texas and Florida schools. You're going to play one of those schools. Like, for example, Alcorn's going to play either Alabama State or A&M, either Bethune-Cookman or Bethune or Florida A&M. And so you're doing away with divisions, and you go with it that way in terms of East and West. So there may be the temperature there to do away with divisions in the next few years. In the short term, probably not, but in the long term, probably. In baseball and in softball, I've been told that they want to mirror what baseball is doing. So I think there's some conversation out there. Whether or not it happens or not, I don't know. But for the first time in a long time, the conversations about divisions, maybe going away is pretty strong. And whether or not it happens or not, of course, it'll be run up the flagpole, but we'll see. But the conversations are out there.
I don't know how to respond to that. I mean, because I think we have things that we're trying to get right now, and we focus on that. If we go down the line, we're adding different situations. But I guess if everybody's in the process and everyone gets together and decide what's best, then we look at that. But can we have one situation at a time? Or can
at some point in time, Carlos, at some point in time, you're going to have to add those other sports. I mean,
that's what I'm asking. I'm asking that.
I mean, you just can't say this is just for football or this is just for basketball. At some point in time, you're going to have to add volleyball and all these other sports, baseball, softball. They're going to have to be inclusive. They're student athletes just like You know, the ones that we bent over backwards for in terms of basketball, you know, why don't they deserve the same thing? At least that's the argument that you're going to get, you know, from that population anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Let everybody in.
Yeah. That's
what's
going to wind up happening.
Do it in less than a year.
And then your bottom dwelling schools, I won't call any names, who are already at budgets like $4 million or $5 million, that sort of thing. They're going to have to add another $1 million or try to their budget, because now all the teams, of which they probably didn't get an invite to the tournament on a regular basis, but now everybody's going on every year. So, you know, somehow I got to find the money. If I'm one of them bottom dwellers now, I got to find the dollars in order for my kids to go.
You know, there's an old saying I used to hear growing up. Sometimes you're not able to keep up with the Joneses.
That's true.
You know, try to get your house straight and as best as possible. Then you look at it. You know, I guess I was kind of being facetious, but then, you know, that's the point. You let everybody in. Again, I understand it's a student experience, but sometimes going that way won't be the. I don't think I'm gonna
throw this out there. I'm gonna throw this out there for you guys, and
throw it out there.
Answer this for me. You know, in order to go to Oregon for the NCAAs, you know they take like the top 16 times in a particular event. Okay, so your kid has the 16th time in the nation. All right, the time isn't that good, but it's 16th. You know, do you allow that kid to go to the NCAAs?
Absolutely.
Knowing
Absolutely.
that in order for this kid to place, 8 people got to fall down, you know, in order for him to reach status. You know, but I mean, that's just some of the things that we as athletic administrators have to go through. You know, because originally you probably did not budget for, you know, that particular kid, or, you know, maybe he or she just got hot at the last minute, that sort of thing. But now, you know, you got to find the money to be able to send that kid out to Oregon, probably knowing that they probably have a snowball's chance in hell of placing. But you got to send them. They got to go.
But Carlos, all you got to do is take some of that game guarantee that you took in for basketball, set it aside so that you can take care of these athletes, because that athlete did the time and did the work to be one of the top 16 in the country. They deserve it, Carlos, and let that basketball money go. Use it.
But true. But we've seen that is not the case all the time, and most of the time, it's not.
Well, Carlos, I'm gonna give you an extreme example. One quick extreme example.
Wait a minute.
One extreme example.
Wait a minute. I gotta go to a timeout.
Okay.
I gotta go to a timeout. We're overdue.
Okay.
We're gonna take a timeout. When we come back, Richard Williams joins it. It's about the student athlete experience. I understand that, but we've got to, Coach Pettaway. That's, you know, I said that as well. Take some of that guarantee money.
Yep.
Take my big screen TV out of the locker room.
What they saying?
So that kid can go.
What Reverend Ike said, God rest his soul. The lack of money is the root of all evil. On that note, we'll come back. Richard Morgan Williams joins us, and we still have some more topics to cover. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Well, I guess not. See, we went overdue.
We went over.
Yeah. And so I'm
Carlos,
the one's going to get fussed at.
my point real quick about finances. Now, this is an extreme example, but it has been used from what I was told. The SWAC also participates in helping schools as well when it comes to the postseason. And we don't know these stories. So if a SWAC basketball team doesn't have the money to go to the SWAC tournament, okay, and that behind the scenes that has happened, the SWAC will help that particular school with expenses to get them to the tournament. And what happens is that every year, every school gets a distribution from the NCAA through the SWAC, and that money comes out of the distribution. Now, that's an extreme. I don't know if they do it anymore, if they still do it, but they used to do it, and it's extreme examples. So it can get tough out there. I know we don't talk about it. I know schools don't talk about it, because for the student athlete, they just want to get there. How it's paid for, who's paying for it, doesn't really matter. But those type of things have happened in the past, and I don't know if the SWAC still does this, but they used to. And so that's just another example.
So Charles, are they really helping you? Are they really helping you? Or are they just giving you a loan?
Somebody just text Charles that his source.
Give me my money back.
Well, I'm just saying that's. I mean, from you're trying to provide the student athlete the experience, and for our conversations, for our discussions, this is just something that's out there. And I'm just saying, I don't know if they do it anymore. They used to. And so, but you have schools that are kind of in extreme type budget situations. And I'm not judging any of one of these schools in terms of how they do their business. That's not for me to say. But all I'm saying is that it has happened. I've heard about it, and it does. The SWAC does have the revenue sharing with the schools, and you have to make whatever tough choices you make to get your team to the tournament. Doesn't really matter on the other end, but these are some of the things that happens. And we can decide whether we can agree or disagree about it, but that's just kind of the way it goes. And the SWAC is there to help, and the SWAC can help in a situation like that.
Well,
right,
let me do this.
It's your chance.
We gotta go to a break. We
I know,
really do. Let's go to break. You're watching the Coach Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network.
Since 2000.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
As technology continues to bring changes to the world of education, it's time we also reimagine teacher professional development. Gone are the days of one-size-fits-all learning that can only be accessed at a specific time and place. The Stride PD Center is an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that allow educators to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. The best professional development plans are those that include a level of flexibility and choice for educators. Whether you're a teacher, school, or district, visit us today to take charge of your learning.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coach Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Let's add Richard Morgan Williams to the broadcast. Also, in the chat room, we're getting a lot of conversations. We'll try to take a couple of comments and add them into the show. And it's very interesting. Willie Bolden says, "Stop crying broke. We need to get and start working the abundance mentality." Also, another one, great conversation, JD. Go Jags. Are refs prepared for that? Mr. Carey says. Mr. Green says nothing wrong with trying something new, Mr. Brown. I guess that's directed at me. But you know what? The discussion that's going on with we're talking about the SWAC and the basketball tournament, expanding the teams. We also talked about technology with tablets being on the sideline in the upcoming 2024 season. It's still not official where the SWAC basketball tournament is going to be held, but I'm thinking it's going to be Atlanta, just from all what I'm hearing. But it's got to be the right pieces put in place. But I think they will get it done. Richard Morgan Williams, are you there? Come join us. And also, with our SWAC trending memo here, NBA news and notes, we got to get to that as well. And then also your expectations for your 2024 SWAC football team. Okay, so with that being said, got some notes on that in the NBA. The draft just concluded, 2 rounds. European draft picks, they led the NBA draft. And it was a whole nother conversation going on about the European influence. They're amateurs, but yet they're pros. They start at an early age. Also, LeBron James and Bronny James' first father and son duo, I got to be careful about my comments on that because I don't want to be called a hater. Well, it doesn't matter. I've been called haters a lot of times. And then, of course, free agency has started. Top couple of picks in the NBA draft, the Europeans. And their influence, you see that in the NBA now. The NBA is just different. It's just different. And they had a whole conversation on their impact on the NBA. These kids are basically professionals about the time they're 15 and 16, and they practice. They don't have an AAU system. Coach Pettaway, the European influence in the NBA.
It's here to stay. Yeah, it's here to stay. And we all got to brush up on our French. We all got to brush up on our French because those guys are playing some great basketball over there. This was David Stern's idea way back. He wanted basketball to go global, and now you're seeing the effects of it. And I also think in the second round, didn't they draft one of the first kids from NBA Africa? Yeah, I think one of the kids from NBA Africa. That's one of the initiatives that the NBA put in to help promote the game of basketball. So we're all just benefiting from the vision that David Stern had years ago to take the game global, and that's what's happening. And the other piece to this, you better start watching out in the Olympics now, because you got more and more international players that are playing in the NBA. So when they go back to their home countries, it makes their Olympic teams better. So on down the road, this could come back and bite us now. It could come back and bite us.
Well, Coach Pettaway and guys, I when I looked at the NBA in the 80s and the 90s, it was more of a physical NBA. The talent, they were just as talented as now, and more. And I guess I just don't like, for example, in the NBA Finals, Luka, he was built up to be such a great player, and he's a very good player, but he has flaws. And I think it's now more of a finesse style of play in the NBA And I think that happens because of the, players that they're bringing in from Europe and Spain. Kind of in an old-fashioned way. And that's why I like about what they were able to do. Defense, we talked about the offense, we talked about great combination, that theirs. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, defense was something that you just couldn't say, oh, they're not playing defense. Defense helped the Boston Celtics. That's what I'm saying. I know it's not going to come back to the way it was, but it says something about the 90s and the 2000s and 80s, the style that they played. I don't necessarily think in a European style influence is good. But we're getting a lot of feedback.
Right. Well, yeah, I think it's, they play more of a finesse game in some of the countries now. If you go back to the days when Russia was sending those teams to the Olympics, those were very physical teams, and that's why the call came in to stop sending our college guys up against these grown men, and that's when they went to the idea of using NBA players. And I think that's I don't see that changing, but to get it back for the NBA to go back to where it used to be, the rule's not going to allow that. They're not going to allow that physical play like they used to, because it led to too many fights and stuff.
Oh, but okay. Let's do this. Let's take a break. Can we do that?
I think you're breaking up, Carlos.
Yeah, I know the whole thing is. Yeah. He's right. We can go to break if Mel is there.
Okay. Maybe not.
Yep.
Okay. Well, let me know if I'm better. Am I better?
You are.
Or am I breaking up? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, it's just the physical nature. I just think basketball was better back during those times.
Yeah.
Is it bad now? No, it's not bad. But, I guess it's just style, points you get on style. I think the players now would not do well against those 90s and 2000 and the 80 basketball players. Just my opinion, though. I could be totally wrong.
I think also with that.
I agree with you, Carlos.
While you say the styles are different, and that's true, you got to realize basketball is basketball, and the NBA is a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the style of basketball, when you change it to this European, the more wide open style is good for business for the NBA, essentially than what it was in the 70s and 80s. So now you're getting an influence of guys playing that European, more wide open, more offensive, less defensive style of basketball, which is more exciting for fans, and that's what's drawing them in. That's what's supporting the bottom line of the NBA. So while we might not prefer it from a pure basketball standpoint, they're also looking at it what's best for the bottom line of the NBA, and that's pretty much, if you've taken a look, that's what all sports have done. You look at the NFL is no longer 3 yards in a cloud of dust, right? They changed the rules to protect their most valuable commodity, which is the quarterback. And it's a more wide open style of play. Major League Baseball noticed that. They saw there was a problem. The 3 true outcomes is an issue. Nobody wants to watch a walk, a home run, or a strikeout. So they made changes to the game that made it more open for fans to watch. So that's one thing you're seeing on that influence on the basketball side.
But somehow we got to
really
find a way.
enjoy-
We got to find a way to catch back up. Yeah, we got to find a way to catch back up because it has definitely lessened the opportunities for our kids. And when I say our kids, I'm talking about American kids, that sort of thing. Yeah, when you look at the draft and you look at all the foreign kids that were drafted, that sort of thing. They're probably about maybe 10 of those slots that probably 15, 20 years ago would have gone to a kid from the USA. That now that kid does not have the option of being able to take that next step for whatever reason. So, we got to find a way to catch back up. We got to find a way to stem the tide or turn it or what have you, so that we can increase the number of our kids that are playing our game in our country.
Well, that's one of the issues.
The NBA draft, Carlos, is 2 rounds.
Yeah, right. Correct. 2 rounds. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the NBA draft is 2 rounds, and I read an article the other day. It's however many draft picks it is. It's 32. I can't remember the number exactly, but there's not a lot of slots. There's not a lot of opportunities, and for Coach Pettaway as a coach, what is it? For the college player, you talk about the first few picks were international. What is it going to mean for our players, the players that have gone to the big schools and the one and dones? What is that going to mean for those players? That's something I've thought about.
Right. I think one of the things that will help you keep those kids, the NIL will help keep some of those kids at your school now because they're still earning money. They go to the NBA to earn money, but now with the NIL, you can still keep some of those kids on your campus because the kids and their family, they're getting money. But eventually, it is going to affect the collegiate game because those kids are going to see all these foreign players coming in, and they started their careers at an early age. Like you talk about Luka them playing pro ball at 15, 16 years old. They're going to look at that. And you'll have a few parents that'll say, well, you know what? Maybe we need to make a move. Maybe we need to go overseas where you can start your career early. But but for me as a parent, there's no way I would do that. I would not leave the United States to take my kids somewhere else just so they can start their career earlier. I'll find a way to have it done here. That's just like in this year's draft, 2 of the kids that came out, they would have been freshmen this year in college, but they played in the G League, on that elite team, and they got drafted. So they're giving the kids other options to start making money. And that's why the G League has changed the way they do business. That's why the NBA has changed the way they do business, because they can see that the foreigners are a major impact now on the NBA and the game of basketball.
Well, in the Olympics coming up, I'm willing to bet though, the United States, they will bring home the gold. Now, I won't say they'll just blow through everything, but they will win it. They surely should win it. LeBron James and Bronny James, first father and son duo. A lot of conversation from the prognosticators, from a national perspective. I'm not a Laker fan. There has been conversation about some players that didn't get drafted that they feel was better than Bronny James. Coach Pettaway, Charles, Richard, and Wheeler. Your thoughts?
Well, I think LeBron just did a Carlos Brown. That's all he did. He just flexed. he just flexed. He said, listen, this is how it should be. This is how it should be. And this is what we're going to do. You want me to stay around? This is all you got to do. You got to fit. You pick late in the second round. You pick up my son so that I can play with him, and I'll be a Laker. I'll opt in and I will stay around and be a Laker. But if it does not happen, I'm going to be a free agent, and I'm going to go where my son going. So I think that everybody saw this coming, man. Everybody saw this coming.
Yeah. What Jeannie Buss tell you, Charles? Yeah. What Jeannie Buss tell you?
Yep, and then you start looking at this saying, nepotism. Well, we're just not getting around to nepotism. The other people have been doing it for years. They do it on the coaching circuit. They do it. Their kids get into coaching because they're able to put them on their staff. So why not let his kid come into his profession? So from that aspect, I'm okay with it. But I do think it's going to have a trickle-down effect. It's going to affect their locker room. It's going to affect their locker room because what they see, all right, LeBron told us ahead of time that J.J. Redick was going to be our coach. He's now our coach. LeBron told us ahead of time he wanted to play with his son. His son is on the team now. And if things don't go right, who are they going to blame?
Yep. This is definitely this is not a surprise. I mean, what I don't like about it is we went all around the mulberry bush thinking that it was going to go another way, and it went kind of exactly the way that we all thought it was going to go. JJ Redick was going to be the coach. I think whatever happened, his name disappeared, and then Hurley, and now he come back to JJ Redick. Okay, not a surprise. Bronny James being drafted by the Lakers, not a surprise. All right, so Jeannie Buss told me this was going to happen. So now the question that Jeannie Buss has to ask LeBron, all right, LeBron, we've done everything that you asked for us to do. Are you willing to take a little bit less money to be able to surround you with some pieces? Because you're going to be making $53 million. Are you willing to take $7 or $8 million less? Is Anthony Davis willing to take a little bit less to be able to surround you with the pieces that you need? Because that's the next piece. We did what you wanted us to do. Now, are you willing to take a little bit less? I think that's going to be the next piece coming up here, because the Lakers are right now, I would say, still a playing team, even with Bronny James and all that other stuff. To me, I'm about winning championships. You know, all this love and all that, all the love fest with LeBron and his son, that's going to last for one good year. But then I'm going to come back to, are the Lakers ready to win the West? Are they ready to win the championship? Are they ready to win the play-in? I'm ready to win a championship. I'm like Magic Johnson. I don't want to see the Celtics have more championships than me, than my team. So now, what Lakers going to do to get better?
Well, if we look at what Boston has done from the top to the bottom, outstanding job.
Yeah.
Outstanding. So I think their problem is, from the outside looking in, their problem is in management. And then they have some problems on the court. But the West is not going to get any weaker. You still got Minnesota, OKC, the Pelicans. They're coming up. So, it's good from a historical standpoint, a father and son. But the big picture is, did the organization get better? Did it get better with the coach that they selected? I still have Sam Cassell just looking, and Sam told me, look, hey, I'm happy where I'm at, but I would like an opportunity to coach. So, they use the word culture a lot. But when we look at culture, there's only select teams that, to me, have a good sports culture in the NBA. Can I say Miami is one? Albeit, I'm putting some pressure on they behind.
Yeah,
they got to step it up. But it's just interesting. At the end of the day, what is the Lakers' benchmark? I think it's championships, right?
Yeah, should be
to win a championship. Wow, why does that sound familiar? Win a championship. Is it realistic? Somebody told me to win a championship every year. That's not realistic, Carlos. It's not. To be in the conversation, the guilty one laughs, I see. But, to be in the conversation, the Lakers are in the conversation, but it's not for a good reason.
Yeah.
It's not for a good reason. And let me just say this. They are a storied organization. And I'd like to see them get back to those days, because it'll be much sweeter to kick their tails when they're where they should be. And that's what I say. Anybody else?
That is as a sports fan in general, and I listened to the show before I was included in, and it goes back to many different subjects. So we talked about nepotism, we talked about a meritocracy, and we talked about just allowing everyone to have the ability to be in. And it all depends on how you look at it. I can go back to the Celtics. Now, Celtics won this year. The Celtics have 3 championships in the last 35 years. So when you're saying the benchmark is championships, they haven't really been doing it themselves. Now, the Lakers, on the other hand, how many do they have in the last 20, 30 years? So right now, your best asset is LeBron James. You're keeping him happy. And maybe that's not by merit. But we don't know. How do we know exactly what this kid is going to be until we find out? He could be King Griffey Jr. He could be Tony Gwynn Jr. at the end of the day. So do I like just spending a pick on someone that won't help your team immediately? Not necessarily, but we have to give him a chance to find out. And at the end of the day, the Lakers' greatest asset is LeBron James. Now, it doesn't matter who else you get in there if you don't have LeBron James. So you have to be smart enough from a business standpoint to keep your your letter A asset on board and happy. So as a business standpoint, I can see where they were going. And the Lakers or the Celtics, and to me, are the antithesis of what the Sixers are. They had the same game plan. It didn't work out for the Sixers. It did work out for the Celtics. And a part of that is being in the East. So you can use whatever business plan you want. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to win, going to help you win. But I know if I have a thoroughbred on one hand, I'm going to do what I need to do to keep him.
Yep.
Well, in the short term, I can see that.
Breathe.
But in the long term, he's not going to play till he's 50, albeit some people think he will. LeBron James. So you have to start looking at life beyond LeBron James. And are you in the fundamental question now, are you better right now as a team to win a championship or be in a discussion? Are you at that point right now? I say no.
No, they're not. They're not.
And I guess my thing is, what is going to be LeBron's attitude when I sit his son down for a poor performance? Is he going to go in the tank also? Do I need to sit him too?
That ain't going to happen. But,
no. Hey, but
that's not going to happen.
What's going to happen when in practice somebody puts a hard foul on him?
That's true too.
Right.
You're exactly right.
See, that's what I'm saying. That they got to be very careful, man. This could really backfire on the Lakers when it comes to that locker room. Now, I'm serious. It could backfire on them.
It could, but answer me this: what move could the Lakers have made this year that would have made them more of a championship contender than where they are now?
They needed more consistent perimeter scoring. They didn't have enough on the perimeter.
And where are they just going to pull that from?
No. I think because of the salary cap, they're handicapped. I think because of all those the contracts that they have, that's why they need LeBron right now to take a smaller contract a salary in order to help put some pieces around it for that team. See, a lot of times people don't understand.
Yeah.
They want to make moves, but they cannot because of the salary cap. The pieces have to fit.
There's also the price you paid, correct, for that championship you did win with the Lakers.
Right.
So what was it, 2020?
Yeah.
The price of that championship was bringing LeBron James on at the LeBron James price.
Right.
And now you're essentially paying for the end of his career.
And we've seen other examples of quote unquote superstars take less, restructure their contracts.
Right.
Yeah.
LeBron may do that and he may not. He has a right not to. He has a right to do it.
I think he'll do it because he doesn't need the money.
Well, I would think he doesn't. I mean, because he's done
He
so
doesn't
many
need the
other
money.
things in investment.
He needs to try to win another championship for the Lakers. And the only way they're going to do that is for him to take a lesser salary so that they can put pieces on that team to help them win.
I just read where he's opted out of his current contract.
Yeah, that was expected.
I just read where he's opted out.
Right.
So I don't know if he's ready to take less money or what.
Well,
Well, he's not gonna leave. He's not gonna leave.
Richard,
You know, he gonna do what it takes so he can play with his son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying he'll take less?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I tell my kids that I mentor this. I say, you do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And to me, LeBron James is at the point of his career where he can make that call.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we like it or not, whether Lakers fans like it or not, they knew what the deal was when he came to LA.
Hey, if they understand though, if they love it, they like it, I love it.
Well, I'm gonna take the Carlos Brown approach. I'm gonna wait and see how this thing plays out, because this year is gonna be all about LeBron and his son, the photo ops. You know, that's what it's gonna be about. Going to these NBA arenas, the Garden, Miami, and playing on the same court with his son and all that. That's gonna be great. The nice flowery conversations, but LA fans want to get back to that mountaintop. And so, to answer your question, Carlos, are these moves that are going to be made, whether LeBron takes less, whether the roster is going to be shaped, the culture of the locker room? JJ Redick's got to establish that, and he had a very feisty press conference, very spicy press conference, started cussing all that. You know, that kind of tells you where he's going to be. You know, he's going to be on the defense because people think he can't coach. He's not ready for this. So that you're going to have to deal with that. Got to deal with the locker room. Got to deal with the culture. Got to deal with this roster. Is it ready to elevate the Lakers? And as a Laker fan, I'm going to say no, prove it to me. And if I'm wrong, I'll come on this show and say, hey, JJ Redick, hey, you proved me wrong. But I think right now, the Lakers are not ready. LeBron's got to take less. And the moves that need to be made, Richard, I think Paul George, his name has been mentioned out there maybe. But can the Lakers afford that high price salary? I mean, you got a lot of good shooters, but they're going to cost you a lot of money. Somebody's got to take less, or you got to make moves. So I don't know how this is going to work. That's what Rob Pelinka's job is going to be.
Yeah.
You know, let me answer this in the chat room. Russell Hayes said, "Stop wishing that player is bad before he gets to LA." Mr. Brown, what type of podcast you are running? Wow, I didn't really think that I said he was bad. Correct me if I'm wrong. He will have to develop like anybody else. There are some players that didn't get picked that I think personally are a better player, better athlete. What's the young man that played for North Carolina State? I read, what's his name, Mr. Burns?
Yeah.
Lost 45.
He signed free agent.
Yeah, lost 45.
Yeah, he signed free agent.
Yeah, I think he's an outstanding player, motor and everything. He didn't get drafted. Well, he signed as a free agent. We see that with HBCU football players. A lot of times they don't get drafted. They have talent, right? But business-wise, they didn't get drafted, but they're able to sign a free agent as a free agent. So they have an opportunity to still have their dreams come true. You know, Bronny, you know, he'll make it or he won't. It'll be determined by Bronny James. His dad is famous and he has help for his dream. But come on. I'm not saying he's bad and damning him before he gets in the league. No. Man, go on. I just had to address that. But anyway, free agents.
The Lakers are still a mess, Carlos. I mean, even with all of this, the Lakers got to put this roster together. They got to figure it out because the West is not going to get any easier. The West is a beast, and I'm just hope that all these moves that are made, and I hope the concessions that will be made will get the Lakers back to where, as Magic Johnson has talked about, to where they can hoist another championship. The Celtics have surpassed them. Magic's not happy. Charles Edmond's not happy. Lakers fans are not happy. And what is it going to take for us to get back to where we properly belong? That's all I'm saying as a Laker fan.
I'm happy. I love it because I'm a Miami Heat fan. I love it. And I know there are a lot of Los Angeles Lakers fans. Again, hopefully they'll get back to what they're accustomed to, winning championships. Are they closer today to that? No, not right now. And I understand the marketing and the business. Yes, LeBron James does a lot of good things off the court. I give him his kudos. But on the court, right now, they are not where they're accustomed to being. And will they get the chance to do it? Time will tell. Time will tell. Coach Pettaway, free agency, any other things that you see? Some trades have gone on. New Orleans has picked up, the Pelicans picked up a couple of good players. The Miami Heat, finally they're listening. They're listening. I don't have to pick up this phone and say, Bam needs to be at the 4, and they need center help. Somebody's listening.
Right.
Somebody's listening.
And then the other thing, you remember New York picked up a free agent. They got Bridges. So that UConn connection is really showing up for the Knicks. So it's going to be interesting. But I think later on today, you'll find out that LeBron will take a lesser contract to help the Lakers out so that they can help improve their roster. And, you know, they had the big scuttlebutt out in Phoenix about whether or not Durant really wanted to be there. And he's telling people that Phoenix is where he wants to be. So we're going to have to put a caution light up on that one now. Because, you know, he likes to leave at the first sign of any kind of drama, Durant's gone. You know, he likes to get out of war. He likes to skip town. So you got to keep your eye on that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Never a dull moment in NBA free agency.
And Paul George has to decide on what he's going to do. He's one of the top free agents people out there, because he has an opportunity to go back to the Clippers, or is he going to hit the free agent market?
And actually, from what I'm hearing, Coach Pettaway, 2025 free agency is going to be a better situation.
Yep.
We shall see. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we'll switch gears. Your expectations for your 2024 SWAC football team. Now, expectations, reality, where do you stand? We'll go in the chat room as well and see what they have to say about your expectations for your 2024 football team. Charles, I know it's Atlanta bust if you're a Southern Jaguar fan, but we'll see. Maybe not.
No, not necessarily.
You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong. Go get them. It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm. Hello, clean bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
At Hampton Law, our primary goal is to provide non-traditional yet effective solutions and redefine the approach to client legal concerns. As your trusted legal advisor, we believe in sophisticated, personalized services that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
Wow, welcome back to this week's edition of the Coach Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Someone in the chat room asked me if I found the Lakers another Kobe. There's one only Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul. But I guess maybe I should be careful. A lot of Laker fans, and I don't mean to upset them, but I will say this, and let the chips fall where they may. The Miami Heat are in a better situation than the Lakers are right now, and I'll leave it at that. Will Miami?
Y'all just lost Kevin Love.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, and that doesn't. And Coach Pettaway, I don't feel sorry about that.
Yeah, but another report says he declined the $4 million contract, but they think that they're going to try to work something out to try to keep him. Y'all need Kevin Love, though. They need that. And then you got Chris Paul out there hanging in the wind. They don't know what's going to happen with him. James Harden, he's up again. He's a free agent this year, and I guess we got to go through all that mess again. And then Russell Westbrook, he's got to decide about whether or not he's going to pick up his option or with them. And then Orlando Magic, they are declining for Joe Ingles. He's an $11 million hit on them. See, they turning him on loose. Money dictates how these rosters have to come together. And you mentioned the Pelicans. Well, they got a big decision to make now. What is Brandon Ingram going to do? Because you got to remember they got Dante Murray from Atlanta.
So but I thought what I read, I thought they were going to try to keep Ingram, and all of this. I'll go back to say this: one franchise basically had to just tear everything down and start anew. And guess what? They were the number one seed in the West. Oklahoma City. I like what they're doing, and they got a lot of picks. And and I'll come to the point now. Miami may have to do something similar to that. Other teams, but look what they're doing. Hats off to their management, because you got the on court. That's fine, but it's so important to have good management, and the general manager and the owners are all on the same page. So
Coach Pettaway, I was going to ask you about Miami. Carlos and I talked about this last week quickly. I felt like the Heat need one more piece.
They do.
And so, Dame Lillard, a year ago, we were talking about that. Obviously didn't happen, but, I think Bam's going to get paid. And so do the Heat, in your opinion, need another piece to get over the top?
I think they do. They need another piece, and they got to remain healthy.
Like a lot of teams. Yeah. And they picked up a center. And I still say to this, and then we'll move on. Bam has done so much, and boy, he's going to get paid. But his natural position is a 4.
4, yeah.
And he's never had a legitimate number 5, And I think that's what needs to happen with them. But guess what? When you play Miami, they may not win a championship every year, but they've been close the last 3 or 4 years. But they're doing it the right way. They're doing it the right way. Now, expectations. That leads me to this. I always have expectations for Miami Heat to be placing for championships. Football-wise, I know SWAC Media Day is coming up. It's going to be Prairie View. I think they're going to pick out of the West, FAMU out of the East. But what do you think the expectations are for those teams and for your institution?
Well, I'll go first. For FAMU, being number one seed, number one pick, they may do it, but why when you got a new coach? You know, there's a big difference now when you have another coach. And then as far as Alabama A&M, I'm looking at 8-3. Write it down, 8-3.
Wow. You know, but expectations, Wheeler.
Yeah, 8-3.
I heard that. I got it down. 8-3.
8-3.
Right now, 8-3.
Yeah, 8-3. Vann Pettaway, 8-3 for the Bulldogs. Go ahead.
Don't count those non-conference games, though, right? But you know, Wheeler, expectations. I think FAMU, and I can't speak for them. The outside looking in, their expectations going to always be the same. And that's the key. I said expectations. It's going to be championship or bust.
I think all those schools that have new coaches this year, okay, I think people need to tamper down their expectations. I don't believe that they're going to be up there as high. That goes for FAMU and those other schools. That goes for Southern. You know, I mean, I just believe that there are going to be some growing pains there.
Blasphemy, Wheeler. Okay? Blasphemy.
When you toss that ball up, I just think there's going to be some growing pains there. You know, come game time. Now, some coaches that are on the clock, okay, I would say Maynard at A&M. You know, it's time to poop or get off the pot, no doubt about it. You know, TC at Jackson State. You know, it's time
Wait a minute. Second year.
Jackson State fans, help me here.
Help me here. Worth the investment. It is time to prove that he's worth the investment.
Oh, Wheeler.
Yeah, I'm not saying he got to win the whole thing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he need to be deep in the conversation. Let me repeat that. He need to be deep in the conversation.
Now, again, let me remind you, I said expectations now. Expectations, and we got about 6 minutes left, so we got to move it up. Richard, you agree with Coach Pettaway, 8-3, expectations for Alabama A&M football?
I do, but as the rational football fan born in the state of Alabama in the 80s, kind of like how Alabama and Auburn are, my number one thing I'm looking for this year is we cannot lose a third straight game to the team in Montgomery. So that's where I start, and I hold Maynard accountable for that one. I hope you watch it, Coach Maynard. I love you to death. We cannot lose a third straight game to the team in Montgomery. And other than that, I've never been as big of a fan as the last couple of years. Xavier Langford at quarterback wasn't really what we were looking for, but he's had another year to try to get the quarterback situation. And for him, that's huge. For Maynard's offense, having a capable quarterback will dictate how far we go. So I will ride with Coach Pettaway at 8-3, but more importantly, I need a victory in Birmingham.
Wow, Charles, you've said on this show numerous times that Alabama A&M fans their top benchmark is winning the Magic City Classic. Once again, I'm reminding everybody, I said expectations. Anyway, go ahead, Charles. We got 3 minutes left.
Yeah, for Alcorn, I mean, I think the expectation, and we only got 4 home games. We have a very tough schedule. The expectation is that, if we're competitive, we got 2 tough games, D1 to start. UAB and Vanderbilt. That's tough right off the gate for first-year head coach Cedric Thomas. But our fans are excited, and I think we go 8-3, 7-4, beat our rivals, and kind of be in the conversation in the Western Division. I think fans will take that compared to where we've been the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Expectations, and then we'll come back next week and talk about reality.
All right, what's yours? What's your expectation?
Well, my expectations stay the same. I'll be consistent. I expect the Jaguars to be in the 8 or 9 game win category. That's one expectation. 2, I expect them to win the West. And my expectations is to get to the SWAC championship. And my expectation is to get to the Celebration Bowl. Now, will that happen? We will see. That is my expectations. But reality may dictate. Also, number 4, they're going to show up every game and play hard. That's 2 things that you can promise. That is my expectations. We won't have closing comments because we kind of just had them. But it was just interesting to see expectations. Were they high? Were they low? Were they in the middle? Just based on what we said, and wow, somebody said, really, Alabama A&M 8-3. TC Taylor is not on the clock. I don't think so either. But I think their expectations at Jackson State is in the category they expect a lot.
And that's
Southern,
what puts them on the clock.
I expect a lot. Everybody else, they expect to be competitive and win. Want to thank Melody for producing today's show. Want to thank the panel here. Going forward, I suspect we'll have some good conversation because SWAC football is just around the corner, guys. And in Birmingham, I'm going to make the trip, and I look forward to seeing everybody there. I could bump elbows with Dr. Cavill, with Brian Fulford, A.D. Drew, Mo Carter. And yes, I'm still going to be the way. My expectations, Atlanta or bust. I'll say that every year. Have a great weekend, everyone. Make sure you join us next Saturday at 11 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Peace and God bless.